This is Women Driving the Industry with Cheyenne Malone.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cheyenne Malone. Welcome to Women Driving the Industry on CBT News. It's a show about showcasing the inspiring stories of women in the automotive industry. We take you behind the scenes and dig beyond their day-to-day. Today, we turn our focus to Cassie Brown. She is a rising auto finance leader who started her career in retail automotive with a dealer group in Kansas back in 2012. Fast forward to today, and Cassie is the Senior Director of Sales for Ally Financial's West Region. And just last year, she was honored with Ally's Top Internal Award. Congratulations and welcome to the show, Cassie.
Thank you so much, Cheyenne. It's truly an honor to be here today, and I'm a big fan of this series, so thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Glad to have you on. Talk to me about how you initially started this career in retail automotive.
You know, it's kind of a funny story. So I'm a big believer that sometimes God allows these pivotal moments to enter your life. And there's one that occurred to me, and that was when I was working 3 jobs, putting myself in college. And one of those jobs happened to be IHOP, the pancake house. And
oh, yeah.
When I was working there, I show up for one of my shifts, and I thought it was really interesting that a couple people had called in sick that day. So my manager was like, Cassie, would you mind working a double? Truth be told, I was broke as a joke, so I could use the money. So I said, absolutely, I'm happy to do it. Well, I learned something about free pancake day, and that was people would order 2 things, pancakes and water. So at the end of the meal, you would literally hand customers a bill that said $0.00. And when you did this, customers would typically tip $0 on a $0 bill. So I ended up working a double shift. I was exhausted. My section was a disaster. And I had this moment where I looked out the window and I saw a dealership. And I said to myself, I bet I could sit there and answer phones and make more money than what I'm doing here at IHOP. So that's, truth be told, that's how I got started in the automotive industry. I started off as a receptionist, and it's been a huge blessing.
Awesome. Love that story. So walk us through that. You went and got that job as a receptionist, and then what? Where'd you go from there?
So there was a finance director who worked over a few of the stores, and usually after 7 o'clock, customers didn't really call in too much. So I didn't have a whole lot of work to do. And he started to approach me in the evenings, and he would hand me a stack of deals. And he would say, hey, would you reach out to these various lenders, ask them, what's needed to get this deal funded? Truth be told, Cheyenne, I didn't even know what this man was asking me, but I was happy to help. And so after doing this for a little bit, he eventually went to the dealer principal and asked if I could become the F&I assistant for this 3-store group. And so I became the F&I assistant. And what made me want to get more entrenched in the business is there was one day he told me how much money he made. And Cheyenne, I have to tell you, I am incredibly proud of where I came from. My parents are hard workers, very successful at what they do. My mom has been a hairdresser her entire career, and my dad has worked for the railroad since he was 19 years old. But when this man told me how much money he made, my jaw hit the floor, and right then and there, I knew this is what I wanted to do. I still didn't know what he did, but I knew in that moment, this is where I want to be.
That's awesome. And tell us about your current role at Ally.
Yeah, so I live in Austin, Texas. And I'm a senior director of sales. And in this role, I truly have the privilege of leading a sales team that manages relationships with over 600 dealers. And that is in the South Texas and Louisiana market. And what's really special about this role in our team is we cover a full spectrum of Ally offerings, from F&I products, consumer, commercial, and dealer lending, to property and casualty and remarketing. So our team truly provides that one-stop shop for Ally.
And just last year, you were honored with Ally's Top Internal Award. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the Leading the Way Award was, honestly, it was probably one of the highlights of my career so far. And it's one of the highest recognitions an ally employee can get. And really what it is the program recognizes teammates across the enterprise that showcase and exemplify our lead core values. So really that's talking about executing with excellence, deliver results. And it was quite an honor.
What do you like best about your job and your journey to it?
I would say I love the relationships. I love the relationships that you have, not just internally with your teammates, but your dealer relationships. And over the years, you really, you have great friendships. And I think that's really important when it comes to, running a team. And I think what I really appreciate is the relationships and reliability working with all these dealers.
And when you work with these dealers and just being in the automotive industry in general, it's male dominated. What's that like, and how have you persevered through that just to, show that, hey, I can show up and show out just as much as anybody else?
Yeah. So honestly, I have to tell you, I know this series is very much geared around, increasing the representation for women in auto. But one thing that really has surprised me is the level of mentorship and guidance I've received from a lot of great men in this business. And truth be told, I would not be here today if it were not for them. And so there are moments I find it empowering being a woman in a male dominated industry, but I feel very blessed to have established relationships and have had men that have really helped guide me and push me to where I am today. I'm very grateful.
What do you say to people who are just, maybe interested in the industry, but feel like, oh, there's not a lot of females that are in this industry, and they kind of brush it off? What do you say to get more women involved in retail automotive?
Yeah. So I would say, I feel like the automotive industry is the best kept secret. And the reason why I say that is because it's a very lucrative industry. And I've learned firsthand, if you work hard and if you have the right mentorship and the right work ethic, the sky truly is the limit, and as it pertains to your career. And so the automotive industry truly is a life-changing industry, and that can accumulate generational wealth and give you independence. So I highly encourage people to look a little bit closer. Auto is amazing.
And when you talk about mentorship, I assume you have a mentor yourself, or maybe multiple?
I do. I have a lot of unofficial mentors as well, because I think it's good to be balanced. I have some externally and internally. And I think it's good to have, I would honestly even tell you, even my family has been very monumental in, guiding me and helping me get to where I am. But I think it's good to have more than one mentor. I really do.
What do you think has, mostly attributed to your success?
I would say two things. I would say God, number one, and I would also say my level of work ethic. I grew up on a farm in Kansas, and I had great relationships with my parents and my family, and they worked incredibly hard. And I think, with the right guidance from them, and just finding ways to be successful. So I would attribute two things. I would say God and work ethic. One thing that has taught me about the automotive industry, I started off as a receptionist, and I really just had a desire to learn more and grow more. And if you work hard and show that you want to be there and show that you want to grow within this industry with the right mentors, the sky's the limit. And I think work ethic goes a really long way.
Okay. So, obviously your story is very inspiring as I sit here and, listen to someone who has worked their way, from a receptionist and to finance. What are your key learnings since moving to the lender side of the business?
I think that's a great question. I would say relationships and reliability continue to be key, whether you're working on the dealer side or the lending side. And I think client relationships, team communications is really essential for your business. And one thing that I genuinely appreciate about Ally is the commitment to the automotive industry. And Ally is a company that consumers and dealers can really rely upon, as we've been around for over 100 years. And there's a saying that is, when times are good, it seems like everybody's there for you, but who's there for you when times are not great? And what I love about Ally is time has proven again and again that that's who we are. So that's a company I can get behind.
That's awesome. What opportunities do you think exist for women in this industry?
To be honest, there is a gender imbalance. And to me, that just means it's a lesser tapped market for women, which in my opinion provides massive opportunities for career growth. And I think women are incredibly independent, and we're seeing that independence increase with each generation. In fact, I was reading an article on CBT that said 80% of all car buying decisions are either made or influenced by women. And when we talk about driving our industry forward, it's essential and crucial to have women in leadership roles. And I really believe that the industry wants that and is ready for that.
Well said. What advice do you give to women who are maybe a little bit reluctant or apprehensive about autos?
It may not be an industry first thought of for a lot of women, and I get that. But I'll give you a piece of advice that my mother gave to my sister and I. And she would always tell us growing up, never be financially dependent on a man. And at the time, it was like, okay, mom's just, saying whatever. But it made me realize she was instilling wisdom into my sister and I. And that has really helped shape and mold our career paths. And so I would say, if you are a woman who is looking for financial freedom and financial independence, the automotive industry is something you should look at. And it's one of those things where you have to start somewhere. I started off as a receptionist. I made my way into finance. I sold cars, and then I moved to the lending side. And it's really one of those industries that's life-changing if you make your intentions known. So that's another piece of advice I would give is, if you are in the business, and it doesn't even have to be just auto, but make your intentions known, because nobody's going to be your biggest cheerleader until you let it known what you want to do. And the last piece of the advice I would say is always be yourself, as cliche as that is, because there are times where, I may stand out in a room, but you know what? Nobody likes watered down wine. It's important to be your authentic self.
Amen to that. Ironically, you bring up something that advice your mom gave you. And it's funny because at the time you're like, yeah, you even alluded to it. But then you get older, you start to reflect, and you're like, you know what? She had some sense, right? Because she's been through things and she knows. What do you think surprises people the most when it comes to the automotive industry?
I think something that surprises people is how lucrative it is. I said it earlier, the automotive industry is the best kept secret. And I touched on this earlier, but while this industry is male dominated, I was really surprised by the mentorship and guidance I've received from a lot of great and influential men. And so it's really important to, bless others the way you've been blessed. And I've been tremendously blessed in my career. And I attribute a lot of that to the men in this industry as well.
Awesome. Any final thoughts for us, Cassie, before we wrap up?
I would just say that, going back to how I got started in this business, it was all kind of by chance, or in my opinion, I think it may have been like God orchestrated. But, I started off as a receptionist, and I made my intentions known that I wanted to grow and I wanted to do more. And if you work hard and you make your intentions known, I think there's a place for everybody in auto. And it's a life-changing business. It really is.
Well, that's all the time we have today, Cassie. But thank you so much for your interview and your insight, and just really for allowing us to highlight your story, because Whether you know it or not, it inspires so many women across the industry and maybe others to get in if they've not given it a look. And thanks to all of you for tuning in to this episode of Women Driving the Industry.
Thanks for watching Women Driving the Industry with Cheyenne Malone.